that's over at the Laugh Factory.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the hell am I doing in Portland, Oregon? I love these people in Vegas. And they've opened up their arms and welcomed me like you wouldn't believe.
Do you know Harry Basil?
Yes.
Okay. I know Harry too.
Do you really?
Yeah, Harry directed a movie that I wrote.
No way.
Yeah, called Cloud 9 with Burt Reynolds and D.L. Hughley, Paul Rodriguez, and God, Gabby Reese. I don't remember, and a bunch of people.
Oh my gosh.
So do you know Alan Bursky?
Al who?
Alan Bursky.
I don't know Alan Bursky yet.
I mean, I know a lot. I know Alan Bursky. You should interview him. He'd be a great interview.
Okay.
Would be. He's a dear friend of mine. I can call him and have, because he was the youngest comedian ever to premiere on The Tonight Show.
What?
Ever, yeah. He was like 17 or 18 years old.
Oh my goodness sakes. Wow. Well, Facebook people, I tagged Brett on his page. So Brett's people and my people are now seeing Brett Hudson get interviewed by me. I'm from Portland, Oregon. I grew up out at David Douglas High School with the Kingsmen. He was down at Cleveland High School, a teen idol.
The Kingsmen. You want to know something? I growing up in that town, obviously, they recorded at Northwestern Recorders, which was right by Portland Community College. I don't even know if it's there anymore. And my brothers and I followed them in. It was the first time we had ever been in a recording studio, which was 1965, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, there. That was a long time ago. I love Portland. You know, Portland's my hometown. That's where I was born. Cleveland High School.
You come from very humble roots.
Yes, very humble roots. Yes.
Very humble. Your mother raised you, and she was doing that sometimes on welfare.
I grew up on welfare. And yeah, my mom raised us. It was three, me and my two brothers, and we lived with our grandfather and our grandmother in their house. And we didn't have a lot of stuff, but I tell you, it molded my brothers and I in a certain way that I have no regrets. I really don't.
Yes.
I'm glad I did that. I know what it's like to want, and I know what it's like to have, and I know what it's like to, at this age, none of that matters. I'm sorry.
None of it.
You know, it's really weird. Yeah, as long as you can pay your bills and have food on your table, everything's great. But the truth of the matter is just be good. Just be good. Be a good person.
Yes. Now, when your band started up, your brothers started and encouraged you into it, and you got healed instantly when they invited you into their band.
Look, this is the swear to God truth. When I was a very young boy, I was rather chubby, and I'm being kind. I had like a 33-inch waist and 16 inch. I mean, I was like a van with arms. And my brother Bill and Mark, and this other gentleman that lived in Eastmoreland named Kent Fillmore, they started a band. I wanted to be in the band so bad, but I was like 10 and pretty hefty. So I got really sick, and I didn't know what it was. I had a fever, like 104. It was really bad. I think my brothers thought I was going to die. So they said, Brett, look, if you pull through, you can be in the band. And the next day my fever broke. Nailed it. It was really weird. And I'll tell you what was strange is I could play guitar because my grandfather taught me how to play guitar and stuff like that. And when I got downstairs and we were going to rehearse, my brother Bill said, okay, I play guitar, Mark plays drum, Kent play, you're going to play bass. I said, okay. I was 11 years old. That was a long time ago. But
yes.
There's always a soft spot in my heart for that town.
Yes. And when your band started playing, you practiced in your garage.
Nonstop. My brother Bill was he was maniacal. I mean, when I think back now, we practiced nonstop. We'd go to school, come home, practice, have dinner, practice, do homework, go to bed, and it was every day. And we started in our garage and our basement. at our house on Yukon Street.
I drove by, a friend of mine in New York, Helene Witt, she and I drove past your house. We had to find your house, just so you know.
I haven't been there in a while. I haven't been up to Portland in a while. There'll always be a soft spot there for me. I mean, we used to play, well, you being from there, you must remember, there was a place out, I think it was 122nd and Powell. It was called the D Street Corral.
Yes.
Yeah.
I grew up on 124th and Raymond.
Oh my God. Okay. I know exactly I know where you grew up. My brothers and I used to play the D Street Corral, which was really kind of cool because on Fridays, it was like country dancing, you know, two-stepping. And then on Saturdays, yes. Ross McKechnie was his name. He would book us. When I think back on all the playing those places, which a lot of people say, oh, you played those dives, you played here, that's where you really nurtured yourself as a performer.
Yes.
One of the problems my brothers and I, if not a problem, but one of the things that we were really good musicians. I mean, we were a really serious band. We were really good songwriters and singers and stuff like that, but we were also very funny.
Yes, and in some ways it held you back.
Oh, no, it held our music back, but we couldn't help ourselves. We were just, it was who we were. We were just, we loved, we were funny and we couldn't help it. And we, you know, we were also very naive. You got to remember, I had just turned 20 or 21, something like that. So I didn't know. I mean, somebody said, you know, the truth of the matter is when we first got offered a television show by Chris Beard, God bless him, he's no longer with us. He said, do you guys want to do television? And we said, no, we're a rock and roll band. Now we were, by the way, sleeping on people's floors at that time. And he goes, I'll pay you $5,000 a show. And without missing a beat, my brother Bill said, we love television. We've always wanted to do television. And that's how kind of that started.
Yes. You were even on What's My Line?
Yes. I mean, you know, I don't think about it. This is really weird. And I don't think about that stuff. I mean, it's like a lot of people ask me, do you remember this? And I go, no. And they'll show me a picture. So I know I was there, but you don't, it was also a very different time. You got to remember. Yeah. There were 3 networks. There was no cable. So, I mean, I remember our very first summer show, Alan Bly walked into our dressing room and said, you guys got a 42 share. And we said, a 42 share of what? we had no idea. And he goes, what? And we went, what do you mean? We had no idea. And I remember he just laughed and walked away. So we were saying, what does that mean? I didn't know until, you know, that was a gigantic rating. That means 42% of the people that had televisions watched that stupid show.
That is incredible. Oh my gosh. And you had your own TV show.
Yes, I did. I had a couple of them. And, you know, it's funny. I did a podcast about 3 or 4 weeks ago. And this gentleman asked me a question of like who I got to learn from or experience and go, wow. And I thought, wow. And I stopped for a second and I started naming people that I actually worked with, like Danny Thomas. Not a lot of people know who Danny Thomas is.
I do.
Come on, make room for Dad. And Danny Thomas, unbelievable. And got to guys like that, even McLean Stevenson. McLean Stevenson did our show. And I learned so much from him about comedy and delivery and stuff like that. And I got to work with like George Gobel, all those great acts like my mom watched.
Yes.
Yeah, you know what I mean? That was the next generation for me. So I got to work with all those people like Alan King and Rodney Dangerfield and all as a young man, which was awesome. And I learned a lot about comedy. Who was it? I was Alan, no, not Alan Sherman. What the hell was his name? I always forget his name. He was very dry. He did Ed Sullivan all the time. He said to me once, I'll never forget it. He goes, you want to tell a joke? You won't get a laugh if you don't know how to deliver the punchline. Never forget.
Did you learn how to deliver a joke from him?
Oh my God. Yeah. Are you kidding me? And you know what? And it's trial and error. If you're on, You never know. The thing I learned all of the years, I started performing when I was 11, and you know, you learn fast. You learn, if you got to get a read of your audience. You got to know where their heads are at. My brothers and I, we had a set form of a show, but we were very much improv in a lot of areas.
Wow.
And you got to read your audience.
Yes.
See where they're at.
So what are some tips you have? Because people in comedy throw that phrase out a lot. They go, well, you got to know how to read your audience. So tell me, Brett, when you read an audience, what exactly are you looking for, seeing, digesting that you read?
Well, when the opening of our show, after we did our opening number, my brother Bill, who was the oldest and the spokesman, would always introduce us and stuff like that. And he was kind of off the cuff there. But as it trickled down, I'm Bill, I'm Mark. When it came to me, I could sense if I said either I'm Brett, or normally I would say I was somebody that I wasn't. And if the audience knew us very well, that always got a laugh. And when we got that laugh, we knew, okay, we can look, can I tell you my problem? This is a problem I have.
Tell me.
Comedy, if you don't push the envelope, get out of that genre. You've got to push and press. Look, I'm talking about, this is 1974 primetime television on CBS. My brother Mark and I were talking about drinking bong water. Wow. And seeing Cinderella and Robin Hood in a park. They didn't know what we were talking about, but we pushed that envelope. Now, because of that, because we were also musicians, all of our, in quote, musicians who we knew and hung with, like, you know, Elton and John Lennon and blah, 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 they all got the joke.
My gosh.
You got to push the envelope. And we're at a time right now, which is upsetting to me, is where you can't push the envelope. And
yes.
And you know what? I admire those that say, F it, I'm pushing it. That's comedy. Period.
Yes.
Period.
One of the things that I like to say when I know that people's sphincters are really tight,
yeah.
I grab the mic and go on stage and I say, you know, everything you say on stage has to be 100% politically correct. You're aware of this, right? And they're like, yeah. And I go, so good night.
That's okay. I agree with you. Look, I'm going back now. My brother Mark and I did a limited series for King World called Offshore Television. Okay. Now, that was in 1987, 88. I believe, I'm Italian. That's how I was raised. I was raised hard, you know, Sicilian, Catholic, you know, the wrath of God, all that stuff. That's how I was raised. Okay. I make fun of Italians because they're great to make fun of.
Yes.
I think we should be allowed to make fun of everybody as long as it's not malicious.
Right. I do too.
That's what I really believe. And I don't mind that. I mean, somebody asked me once in one of the podcasts if I had ever done blackface. And I thought for a second, I said, yeah, I did. Actually, I did in 1974 or 5, I did an impersonation of Sammy Davis Jr. And they said, well, now do you think that's racist? I said, no. I said, yeah, the Wayans brothers did that movie where they became blonde white girls. I thought it was hysterical. I find that it's a comedy. I'm not making fun. We got to just loosen up a little bit, just like, you know, shake it out. Everything's okay. What's going on in this world has got to get better, and it probably will, because this may, you know, this, my wife said something to me, and I hope she's right. She said, George Floyd, he might be the Rosa Parks moment.
Yes.
And that's what I'm hoping.
That would be beautiful if
Yeah.
if it took this to get us to another level.
You know, somebody asked me once, I'm just going to say it. They said, you know, has anybody ever, are you a racist? Is basically what he said. And I said, Well, I guess so. I don't like assholes. But I guess I'm racist against them, whoever they are. And that's really how I've always been. When 1968, I was, I don't know what, 15, 16 years old, I read in Circus Magazine an interview with Jimi Hendrix. If those of you who don't know who he is, Google
Look it up.
Yeah. That makes me crazy. Don't get me started with that. Go back and find out why we are where we are in entertainment, and you'll see why we are where we are. Jimi Hendrix is one of them. But he said in this article, they asked him about if he was racist, and he said, "No, I only see music."
Wow.
That killed me.
That gave me chills.
That was awesome. I mean, I was what? Like, I was probably 15, 16 years old. It's just, we'll be fine. We'll get through it. I don't have no problem with it. But still.
My parents came to Portland after Hitler, and my dad survived the concentration camps, and he always had this chip on his shoulder, right? Like that people were anti-Semitic.
Yeah.
And I remember him and my mom got divorced when I was getting ready to go into high school. And so we'd go to this restaurant and that restaurant for a while till they were anti-Semitic. And then we didn't go to that restaurant anymore. Had a lot of broken restaurant relationships.
Well, but you want to know something, honestly? I know this, like my grandma, Tessie, God bless her. She died when she was like 96. But she told me about, like, they were like bootleggers and yeah, stuff like that. But she told me, she said, I'm Italian. So I'm the youngest guy. I mean, I'm like 67. I'm still baby. I'm the baby at 67. What does that tell you? Grandmother told me, she goes, back in the day, and everybody said it, there were pockets, how it used to be. There was, and this is how they call it, Jewtown.
Yep.
Woptown, which is my favorite. I love that. Wop. Krauttown. And they were friends. Like when I grew up, Mary Pat, she was from Jewtown. And Hilga was from Krauttown. And they made no mistake about where they were going, which I understand it in a weird way, because back then that slang was slang, and that's how they communicated and stuff like that. But there was nothing malicious about it. And that's what I keep finding. I said to my wife the other day, I said, my wife's from England, so she does, I said,
your wife's last name was Lang. Is she any relation to the actress Jessica?
No.
Or is that spelt different?
No, it's the same. I think Jessica Lang is not with an E at the end. My wife is L-A-N-G. She said to me, I said to her the other day, we were watching something on television, and I said, you know what? I said, because she's been here for a long time, since like 1982, but she wasn't here during the 70s and the 60s that we were here. I said, I'm tired of this. I am tired. I've been living through this since I was a little boy. Now I'm like, a very handsome old man.
Very.
And I'm still living through this. What? Come on, man.
Yeah.
Already. And that's I don't really talk much about that stuff, because we're so divided, and I don't blame anybody except us, the people. I blame us. That's all I can do. That's why we need a really good comedy to come out and make us just laugh and accept.
I know. We just need to cut loose.
I agree with you, but there's nothing like that. I mean, seriously, there's nothing like, somebody asked me once, do I miss anything from what I used to do, perform and stuff like that? And I said, no, not really. I said, I miss recording with my brothers. And I said, and I do miss when you can make people laugh. There's nothing like that. That's an emotion that when it's feeding at you because you've done something to make them feel that way, there's nothing like that.
Nothing.
Not at all. My brothers and I had this one section in our show that we knew no matter what, even if we sucked all the way up to that section, which sometimes we did, we knew once we got to this section that they were gonna laugh, which was awesome. And God, this was a long time ago. We co-headlined in Vegas at the Aladdin with Lola Falana, which not a lot of people remember who she was, but she was a gorgeous, gorgeous woman and really an amazing performer. We co-headlined at the Aladdin. God, this was a long time ago. And you couldn't get a ticket. It was a great show with the 2 acts and stuff like that. And then they wanted to call us back, and they wanted us to co-headline with Frankie Valli. And Frankie Valli said he wouldn't perform with us because he saw us with Lola Falana and we beat up the audience by making them laugh too much, which is very bizarre. And you want to hear something really cool? The next time they wanted to book us was with Gladys Knight, who I love to death. She actually told us at home and spoke to my brother Bill, and she said, honey, I love you boys, but I don't want to work that hard. That's all she said. Because my brothers and I were high energy, music, and we were funny. Naturally funny. And most of our show wasn't scripted. In fact, the only thing we knew was what song we were going to play, but in between it, we did it off the cuff. But we always, as any comedian knows, and I'm sure you understand this, you always have that thing in your pocket just in case.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm talking about, where, wow, this isn't working, but I know this works is foolproof. And we had about 3 or 4 of those, which was
that's golden when you can do that and switch it up based on what's happening.
I'm sorry, you didn't get.
When you can have things in your pocket in case you need to switch up your material, then you're at a whole nother level.
It is a whole nother, and I'm, for anybody who's listening, who's like wants to get into comedy, what's happened to my internet? Can you see me? Because I
can see you just fine.
Okay. That's not something that I think that's something that you develop. You develop that instinct. You develop that stuff. Because I think back when we first started out, we just went for it. We didn't care. But as we continued to perform, you kind of read your audience and you understand, and you understand, oh, I can go there, but I can't go there. We did that a lot. My brother Bill was, I got to give him credit. He was brilliant at that. He was brilliant at just, now we're just like 2 dorks at just whatever he said, go this way. We said, okay. It's one of those
things. Did you have formal training in acting and improv and comedy, or it was all just on stage?
No, probably will know who this is. Remember this show Bewitched?
Yes.
Remember her mom?
Yes.
She taught my brothers and I acting.
Wow.
She was a phenomenal actress. And we took classes from her for a while. And back, we were transitional. Like we were coming up at the end of the 60s into the early 70s when the studio system was still kind of there, but not. It was kind of fluctuating. So when we got like signed, we had to take, we took gymnastics, we took fencing, we took, speech crap or whatever it was. We took all those classes because they were mandatory kind of. And the only place we fell short was dance class. No, they had to take ballet. This is swear to God truth. If anybody out there knows ballet, my brothers, I didn't know. So it was a very famous ballet instructor. And we were stretching and he goes, okay, put your legs on the bar. So we're athletes. So we lifted our legs up, put it on the bar. He goes, now point. So we pointed like this. He meant point your feet. And he started to cry and left. But we had I was trained in all that stuff, which was kind of cool. But the best thing one of the things I cherish is I got to see the transitional people into that next performance area. I got to see, like the guy, like I was saying, in comedy, I got to see all those guys because I got to do shows with them, which was just, unbelievable. I mean, David Brenner. Not a lot of people talk about David Brenner. He was.
I do.
I loved him, man. He was a hoot, and he was a really good guy. But all those guys like that from like the 70s, God, I can't even think of all. There's so many of them, and Elaine Boozler, stuff like that. Elaine opened for us in wherever we were, Denver. Funny, and if comedy is a pace. The other day, I watched. God bless him, and I don't care what anybody says. Sam Kinison. I watched a Sam Kinison tape, and everybody's just his yelling and stuff like that. No, listen to his rhythm. Listen how he sets up the punchline for him to. What was it? Was the one when he walks up to some guy in the audience? He goes, "Are you married? Are you married? You're not married? Okay, you're not married. Okay. Remember this face. You looking at me? Remember this face." And then he does his scream. Okay. You know what a herald is, or a callback.
Yes.
I knew he was going back to that, which he did. But you know what? He paced it perfectly. So he got a bigger laugh going back for the same joke everybody saw.
Yes.
Yeah. You know who taught me that? I'll tell you who taught me that, and not Jonathan Winters.
Oh my God.
See, I don't talk about this stuff very much because people think I'm crazy, and I might be. But there was a time, like Hollywood Squares. I did Hollywood Squares in the early 70s. I did them with like Orson Welles. Come on, Citizen Kane. Orson and my brothers and I did Orson Welles, George Gobel, Jonathan Winters. It was a different time. So I got to be, thank God, around all of these people that I grew up watching in Portland, Oregon, on welfare and black and white television. So it was really, really cool. It's on the internet somewhere. I told this story. Two of my, I don't have any favorites, or it's not in any order. Okay.
Right.
The top 10, any way you want it, of comedians that Bob Hope, Groucho Marx. Just Bob Hope, and it's their delivery. I don't know what it is, or something. I just love them. So when I was a little boy, my mom, if there was a Marx Brothers movie on the morning movie, my mom would let me stay home from school and watch these movies. I loved it. Okay. Now I'm like, God, I don't know. I don't even know. I think we were walking with our manager in Beverly Hills, and he knew Groucho, and he saw Groucho, and he called him over. Now, and he introduced us. I barked. I didn't even say hi. I just made like a noise. I could not take my eyes off. I'm like, oh, I made like some sort of noise, because there he was right in front of me. The guy that I was watching when I was like, 6, 7, 8, and a kid. And he invited me and my brothers and Abe and his wife at the time to his birthday party. That was on a Saturday. So, are you kidding me? Groucho Marx. So we're up at somebody's house, wherever Groucho was living. And I'm sitting on the couch, and I see Groucho, because he knew that it's like, Groucho, Groucho Marx. He comes through the crowd, and he goes, I'm not very good at impersonations. He goes, excuse me, youngest Hudson brother, do you mind watching the facility while I use the lavatory? I thought, oh, Groucho, all these people here. I mean, like everybody who was anybody, Nicholson, all the whatever what hell was going, they were all there. And he comes to me. So I'm in this hallway. Groucho goes in the bathroom. I'm in the hallway. And people walking down. I go, no, you can't go in there. Groucho's in there. He asked me to watch the door.
Wow.
Well, it'd been a while. So I knocked on the door, and Groucho, no answer. And Groucho, no answer. And Erin, who was his the woman that took care of him, kind of, I called her over. I said, Erin, Groucho's been in for like 10 minutes. I knocked on the door. He's not answering. And she goes, Groucho, and opens the door. either there was a door in the bathroom that led to a bedroom to get him out, or he stepped out the window and he was in the backyard talking to a blonde girl. And I was standing by the door telling people. And when I walked out in the backyard, all I did was take the drink and go like this. He punked me. I was punked by Groucho Marx. I'm going to go to my grave with that. I was like, what, God? I don't know. I was like 19, 20 years old. That was awesome for me. And I got to meet Bob Hope. So no matter what, I got to meet people that, yeah, you know.
Tell me about meeting Bob Hope, please.
Okay. My brothers and I were doing the Tonight Show. And
you just say that like it's just every day happening for everybody.
No.
You know, my brothers and I were doing.
Well, okay. We were doing the Tonight Show, and Bob Newhart was the guest host. Okay, and we get to NBC. We go in the makeup room, and then you sit in the green room, and then Peter Sally would come and tell you what you're going to do, and blah 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 and stuff like that. And my brothers and I are standing in the hallway, and who's walking towards us? But Bob Hope, and and he said, "I know," and he went, "Hi, boys." And he goes, and I said, "Oh, Mr. Hope, wait, I've seen every movie." And he goes, "I've seen your television shows." That's all he said to me. And we laughed, and he was so great. And I said, "Look," I said, I said, "You don't understand. I've seen every movie you get." And he goes, what did he say? "I feel your pain." That's all he said. And he walked down the hallway into his dressing room because he was doing a special at the other. To me, you know, getting to meet those guys was like, are you kidding me? And somebody asked me once, this was just, yeah, I do podcasts. I don't know why, but I do them anyway. Somebody asked me if I said something about Jerry Lewis, and he goes, "Did you know Jerry?" And I said, "Well, yeah, actually I did." I said, "It's very strange." I said, "I did the telethon, I don't know, like 3 or 4 times, but Jerry's playing at the Sands." Now I'm really aging myself because it's not there anymore. Jerry was playing at the Sands, and my brothers and I were playing, I think, at the Flamingo, because we did like rock concerts, and then we did Vegas, different time. And everybody, by the way, that made fun of us back then for doing Vegas is doing Vegas now. And the same thing with Cher and I, you know, I love her dear. I've known her for, I don't know, 40 something years. We talked about it all the time back in the 70s. Rock and rollers made fun of us for doing Vegas. Now those rock and rollers want to do Vegas. That's all I have to say. Shame on all of you. But Jerry, his guy, I don't remember his name, called us and said, "Jerry, we'd like to meet with you guys." So in between shows, we both had the same gap. Jerry would send us a car, we'd go to his dressing room, and he wanted to do a feature with me and my brothers, which was really interesting. And we became really kind of good friends for, God, quite a while. I mean, we were communicating all the time because he had a great idea. Not a lot of people know who this is. Now here I go. He was a French director. His name was Jacques Tati. If you know anything about French film, brilliant. I mean, comedically brilliant. My brothers and I were huge fans.
What's the last name?
Jacques Tati. Don't ask me how to spell it. I can barely spell my own name. Look up Mr. Hulot's Holiday. Remember
that? Sounds familiar.
Yeah, a brilliant comedic director. Very loved him. When he found out my brothers and I were huge fans, that's how we got together. And we just went back and forth for about 3 or 4 months. And then I don't know what happened, but so, you know, that's what happens then. We went on the road. He did what he did. You kind of lose everything. And the last time I saw him, I was on Sunset Boulevard going into town on Sunset and Church Street. I was on the inside lane, and there's a turn lane. And I had a convertible at the time. I had my top down. And I don't pay attention to people on either side. And I'm stopped at the light, and I hear somebody going, and I looked, and it was Jerry. And I went, "Hey, Jerry, how are you?" He never stopped going until his arrow turned, and he turned away. And that was the last time I ever saw him. See, I miss that craziness. I'm Mel Torme. I knew Mel. I knew Mel's son. Okay, Steve Marsh. I know really well. And Steve loved Jerry Lewis. Mel knows Jerry. Steve said, "Dad, can you say I want to meet Jerry?" This is right after Jerry had double bypass. They were, wow. Yeah, this was a long time ago. They were at a very well-known restaurant, and they were having pasta, and Jerry's putting pasta on his fork, and Mel goes, "So Jerry, how are you?" And he goes, "I'm good after the bypass. The doctor said," "What?" And he threw the fork with all the pasta on it up in the air and landed in the restaurant. Everybody laughed. Can I tell you something? If that happened today, he'd be arrested and he would go to jail. Everybody laughed. I miss that. That's not here anymore. And I don't think that's ever coming back.
Yeah.
I miss that freedom of expression.
Yes.
Mind you, it was Jerry Lewis. If somebody else did that, it's totally different. But Jerry Lewis, come on.
So that was what he was really like when he was being that silly character. That was what he was like.
I have a picture in storage back home in Los Angeles. My brothers and I were doing the Cher show, not the Sonny and Cher show, just the Cher show, and Jerry was on it. Remember, it was a different time. I keep saying that. So he takes out we're rehearsing. He takes out a cigarette. He pulls out a lighter. I'm kid you not. He turned on the lighter. The flame was this big, and he held it way down and lit his cigarette. Okay. That, I mean, I don't care about that. You know, I was fortunate. I'm so fortunate to have been around, you know, those guys like that. I was just, you know, I don't know. I was just a kid. So I was like, I would just study him. My brothers and I were doing a Merv Griffin show in Las Vegas at Caesar's Palace. It was 105 degrees. And we played a song, and Merv comes out, and all of a sudden the audience starts clapping, and Sammy Davis Jr. walks out in a floor-length fur coat at 105 degrees. It was really kind of cool. And he did God, what's that song? I'm a Brass Band. And it was unbelievable. I mean, again, I was a kid, and these are guys, that was my mom and, you know, that was their generation of stuff.
Exactly.
I got to see all of that. A lot of people, I still have the ticket, by the way. I swear to God, truth. I have two tickets that I saved my whole life. One, I saw the Beatles in Portland, Oregon, at the you know, the old Coliseum in 1965 or 6. And in 1967, I saw Judy Garland at the Palace in New York when I was 14 years old. And I can honestly say this: I've seen everybody. I've seen a lot of really amazing, unbelievably talented performers. I've never seen anybody, and I'm including the Beatles and the Stones, I've never seen anybody command an audience like Judy Garland and Frank Sinatra. I'm sorry, ever. They didn't even announce it. Frank Sinatra just walked out with a cigarette and a shot of Jack Daniels. People went crazy.
Wow.
It was amazing. And I got to be around all that. So I feel very fortunate.
You are very fortunate, very blessed life. So when you go to Portland, mm-hmm. do people there, you know, stop you, recognize you?
Oh my God, no. I've been, well, if they see my credit card, my ATM, yes. They know my name. No, I don't look anything. Look, which is really weird. This was 1970, God, 75. I was like, you know, I was like a teen idol. I was on the cover of all these.
I saw. Do you still have all that chest hair?
No. No. No, not quite. No, see, look, it's not. Uh, okay, that picture, by the way, has haunted me. I was 22. That picture has haunted me, and I'm 67. I still, I can't escape it. So it's very funny. When I did, I wrote and produced a movie with Burt Reynolds, who, God bless him, I love that guy. He was just, he was a great guy. I just really liked him, and we were sitting once. We were just talking because we knew a lot of the same people. He was madly in love with Dinah Shore. He wanted to,
Really?
yeah, he wanted to marry her. We were at Ruddy Morgan's in their office, and he told me, he goes, she said, no, I'm way too old for you. And I said, can I make a confession? He goes, yeah. I said, I was in love with her too. I had such a crush on Dinah. I was like 21, 22. I used to do her show. I had such a crush on her because she was such a wonderful woman. She was a great woman. But Bert and I were talking, and I said, let me ask you a question. I said, that cosmopolitan layout you did, he went, biggest mistake of my life. I said, what about it? He goes, I said, it was huge. He goes, exactly. He goes, I still get that. I said, okay, I was a teen idol. And he's, yeah, I know who you were. I said, okay, I'm going to show you a picture. I can't escape this. What is it? And when they see it, they still think I'm that age. I'm not. And I don't look anything like that anymore. That's what happens. People say, oh my God, look how he's aged. Well, look at a picture of you when you were 21 and tell me what you think.
Thank you. Oh my gosh.
You know what? I don't care about that. I don't care about that stuff. I never have. But I have no regret. I know it's really weird. I don't have any regrets, and I should have a bunch of them.
You were quoted as saying that there's nothing you would do differently.
And that's the swear to God truth. When I think back, even though I know the missteps that my brothers and I made, I couldn't change. What I learned and what I got to experience is a treasure of learning and experiencing and bonding with people that I never thought from Portland, Oregon on welfare, eating cheese, powdered eggs, powdered milk, and Spam, that I would ever be hanging with these people. My brothers and I, we hung with John Lennon from during his last weekend, 73, 70. Harry Nielsen I met when I was 16 years old, and I talked to him the day before he died. I never lost his friendship. Loved the guy. One of the most incredibly talented. And my brother Mark, by the way, I don't know the name of the album. I think it's Lost and Found. It's an album when my brother Mark was producing Harry, and for 3 or 4 weeks I stayed away because I was actually doing, I don't remember what I was doing. I was doing some television show, and I called my brother Mark and I said, so what's going on? He goes, I'm almost done. One more vocal. Harry sings it tonight. I said, oh, that's great. I said, I haven't talked to him. I got to call him. He said, you should give him a call. I called him. We talked for about 15 minutes. And we always told you, and this is kind of weird, you always kind of told you, he would say, I love you, brother, because I was one of the brothers. And I said, I love you, Harry. We always ended like that. And that night he sang the last vocal, went home, asked his wife then, Una, for a peach. And when she went in the bedroom, he had died of a heart attack. Broke my heart. Literally broke my heart. But guys, people like that, there's an old saying, they live in us. And I always, my uncle taught me that. My uncle was a character actor named Keenan Wynn. And
your uncle was who?
He was a character actor named Keenan Wynn. He back in the MGM days and stuff like that. And his father was Ed Wynn, one of the most famous.
I was going to ask you.
One of the come on, the fire chief. Brilliant. One of the most famous comedians ever.
Ever.
When Ed died, I was a little kid, but then later on I was talking to my uncle about him, and he goes, I said, do you ever think about him? He goes, I don't have to, love. They live in us. I never forgot that. And that's the truth. All those people, all the paths that I crossed, of the people that aren't here. I'll never forget them ever as long as I live. You know, I had 2007. I had cancer. I was diagnosed with stage 4 throat cancer, and told by 6 doctors I'd be dead within 6 months if I didn't get what's called a morbid operation. And Cher, God love her, called me one day, or called my wife one day and said, bring Brady to the house. I want him to meet this doctor. I was like really sick. I was like 136 pounds. I didn't have a hair on my body. I looked like one of those cats from Egypt, you know, that have no hair. Exactly what I looked.
Where was the cancer in your body?
It's in my throat. I had stage 4 throat cancer.
Okay.
And I went over to Cher's, and I met this, and I brought my medical records, and I met this doctor. Her name was Ursula Jakob. And she went upstairs for about 45 minutes, and my wife and I sat and just talked to Cher, and she came down and she went, I can cure you. He said, tell me how. And she told me how. I'm a very logical person, although I don't appear to be, but it made logical sense what she said. And 10 days later, I was in Germany. I was there for 8 weeks, came back with no tumor, no cancer, no operation. Different approach. But in that time that it took me to heal, I went back and started to like relearn, if that's even the word I can think of, things that I thought I already had learned or knew, to refresh my memory. Because as you know, for me anyway, you get shortcuts. When you do something for a long time, you get shortcuts. I don't have to do that anymore. I can just go from A to Z and I'll be fine. But right. And that goes for, like, you know, who was I talking to? I can't remember who it was. Eddie Hyder. That was his name. Eddie used to write for Bob Hope. He did tons of variety shows. And Eddie said to me, he said, the most important thing about a joke is setting it up. If you don't set it up right, it doesn't matter what the punchline is. They won't get it. So that setup is real important. Speaking of Danny Thomas, what the joke that made him famous was the Jack story, which not a lot of people know.
I don't know it.
Okay. I'll give you an abbreviated version of it, okay? Because it's an actual it's a very long joke, and the length of the joke is actually what makes it, the punchline, funnier. But just everybody who's listening, and you just imagine it longer, okay?
I've been doing that since I had sex.
Okay.
Okay.
You know where I'm coming from. Here we go. Guy's driving in the desert. It's like 115 degrees. He passes a gas station, goes about another half a mile, and boom, he gets a blowout. Oh my God. Hey, there was a gas station about a half a mile back. Takes off his tire. He's wheeling it back. He's dripping with sweat. He's dying of thirst. Takes off his shirt, puts it on his head. And as he's wheeling his tire back in this heat, he's thinking, God, I wheel it all the way back there about a half a mile. What happens if I get there and I say to the guy, hey, can you fix my tire? He goes, no, I'm not fixing your tire. But he wouldn't say that, would he? Why would he? If I said, hey, man, it's really hot, can you fix my tire? And he goes, I'm not fixing your tire. So he gets to the gas station and he goes, hey, man, can you, he walks up, he wheels to the gas station like that. And the guy comes out and goes, can I help you? He goes, fuck you if you're not going to fix my tire. That's a Jack story. I had to tell it. I'm sorry for swearing, but it's much, when you tell it really long, you're waiting for what the hell is it? And when he gets there, the guy doesn't even say anything. He just immediately thinks the guy's not going to fix his tire. Danny Thomas became a famous comedian based on the length of that joke.
Wow.
You can find it on YouTube. It's in black and white. But those kind of,
I gotta look it up.
Yeah, it's a famous joke. It really is, and I told it horribly, so my apologies. But to tell it correctly, it's got to be about 10 minutes, because he would go on and on with, like, you know, he's hungry, he sees a rabbit. He went on and on, just to all this for that one punchline. But it worked. Look, Ed Wynn, he used to play the Palace. My Uncle Keenan told me this. His big joke, which the curtain would open. It was big fanfare. Curtain would open, and they wheeled out this gigantic hot dog bun. And the music, and it stops. And this is what I thought was brilliant. My uncle Keenan told me this. Edwin would let it just sit there for about a minute with nothing, just dead silence. The music, the fanfare, and it would reel out. It would just stay there for a minute, and people would start to laugh. And then it would open up, and he would walk out, and people would cheer, and he would say, opening line, "Excuse me for stepping out of my role." My Uncle Keenan told me that. That was Edwin's opening for his act in vaudeville. See, I'm a wealth of useless knowledge of stuff like that because, and I still learn from it. Still to this day, I learn from it.
So much brilliant comedy out there that a lot of people don't know. I didn't know this, and I've studied comedy.
Oh, there's just, you know what a living room comedian is? There are people,
somebody that tells jokes to their friends.
Well, in the living room, they're hysterical. Put them on stage, and they can't do it. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yeah. Get out there without your, come on. When I was a kid, played Cleveland. If I played a dance at Cleveland High School, I went to school with them. What are they going to do? Boo me? Get out there where people don't know who you are, and see how you can grab them, get them, hook them, whatever it is, whatever you got to do to perform. But
that's beautiful.
But it's the truth.
It is the truth. I want to touch on something because I'm a girl. I don't know if you noticed, I'm a girl.
Oh, no, I noticed you're a girl. Yes.
Somebody in your family has been attached to some of the most famous women.
That would be, well, I mean, okay. You my brother Bill? No, you look, I never talk about that stuff. Yeah, but yeah, my brother Bill, he married Goldie. It's very funny, a lot of people, when they find out that I'm Kate's uncle, which is really kind of weird, they go, "Oh God, do you have any pictures of her?" Well, yeah, when she was like a baby. I say, "I should change her diaper." So people understand, she's my niece. Whether I see her or not is irrelevant. I have nieces all over the place that I love dearly. I haven't seen my niece Sarah, who I love with all my heart and soul. She's in her 30s. I'm 67. Why would she hang out with me? But exactly. Yeah, my brother was married to Goldie. I love Goldie. I mean, Goldie and I, it's really weird. All my brother's ex-wives, I get along with. And he married Cindy, who I loved. I love also. Really funny. Cindy's.
I got to meet Cindy.
Oh, you did? Oh, she is so distorted, and I mean that in a good way. She's got a warped sense of humor. She really does. I love her to death. Yeah. And you know what? Look, it's tough. I've been married for 30 years. 30 years in show business. That's tough. My brother, look, I always look at it this way, look at what came from those marriages. Ollie, who I love with all my heart and soul, Katie, who I love, Emily, my niece, who I love, Zach, who I love. So regardless of my brother and his wives can't get along, that has nothing to do with me. I love my nieces and nephews. And I love my ex-sister-in-laws as well. When I got sick, Goldie really helped me. She helped me a lot. A Buddhist monk who she knew, because she's a Buddhist, also had throat cancer. And I went to her house at the beach, and I sat with Goldie and this monk and Wyatt Russell, who, by the way, is a really good actor. I'm sorry, a lot of people don't know that. The next movie, okay, as soon as this, whatever the hell we're going through, pandemic thing opens up, and live again. I got to start directing this movie. I got to finish it before I'm like 70. I've been sitting. No, I've been in shutdown here in Michigan because of this thing for what? I think I'm on my 8th. No, God, I'm on my 10th or 11th week. But it's going to open up now because the governor is now, thank God, opening things. But all that I have a script that actually, after this movie I'm going to do, I'm going to probably try to cast Wyatt. That's how good he is. He's a really good little actor. And well, look at his mom and dad. That's Kurt and Goldie. I love Kurt. Kurt Russell's underrated. I don't care what anybody says. It's one of my favorite.
I think so too.
One of my favorite. I always forget the name of it. There was a movie that Kurt did where like what's his name? J.T. Welsh is a truck driver, took his wife,
Yes.
kidnapped his wife. Kurt,
Yes.
phenomenal in that movie. Phenomenal.
Now you said that you were an athlete, and your brothers and you were athletes. What sports did you play?
I played. I played for about 4 years. I played semi-pro fast pitch softball, which was a blast. I played city league flag football. This is when I was older. When I was in, I wasn't in high school. This is another thing that's really weird. I went to Sacred Heart Grade School in Portland, Oregon, which I think now has been torn down. And then my 9th grade year, I was touring. So I couldn't go to school. So it was Portland Public School of Tutoring. It was on 23rd and Burnside on the corner.
By Henry Teeley.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. I went to school. My 9th grade year, I finished my 9th grade year in 3.5 months because I had to go back on the road. So that was my 9th grade year. And then the tutoring school closed because my brother Mark and I were the only clients. They closed. And I got into Cleveland my sophomore year. And I know this is going to sound weird. After my sophomore year, at the beginning of my junior year, I thought, what am I doing? I know what I want to do. They can't teach me. I can read, I can write, I can add, subtract, divide. I'm fine. I was that way. And I'll never forget it. I went to my mom, God bless her. I went to my mom in the basement at 2123 Southeast Yukon Street. No, don't go there. I don't even know who owns it now. I was in the basement and I remember I walked downstairs to my mom. I said, Mom, I'm going to drop out of school. My mom, being a very, Catholic, Cecilia, started to weep. I said, no, Mom, listen to me. And I explained it to her. I thought I did it really well. And she said, she understood, which was cool. My mom made my brothers and I believe that there was nothing we couldn't do if we gave it 100%. That's what she instilled in us. Since I was like a little, like I'm talking like a little boy where I didn't even know what she was saying, but she always said, you can do and be whatever you want. Just give it everything you got. She always said that. And I told her, I repeated her own words back to her. I was a smart little kid. And she said, make me a promise. Promise me you'll get your high school diploma. I said, I promise you. Okay.
Wow.
Now I'm going back. Now cut to, I'm 66 years old. This was last year. I did a pilot, which I was going to sell, but I got, everything kind of got screwed up, which is called Hudson Goes to High School, where I actually go back to a real high school. Because if I'm going to get a diploma, I'm a junior, so I only have 2 years. I want to go to high school and experience it. And I was doing this pilot, and this one high school kid said, well, are you going to go to high school parties? I said, yeah, if I could stay awake. That's the truth. It's just, and I left school, and I hate to say it, I don't want anybody to leave school. Stay in school. School's important. School's important if you don't know what you want to do for the rest of your life. I knew what I wanted to do for the rest of my life in 1957. I was 4 years old. I saw Elvis Presley, and I didn't know what that was, but I wanted to do that. I have no idea. It was a weird, I'll never forget it. I don't know, it must have been the Ed Sullivan Show. He was on some television show, and I was 4 or 5 years old, and I remember standing up. It was a Magnavox black and white, and I thought, I want to do that. I didn't know what it was, but I did it. So what the hell?
I always wanted to do comedy, and I didn't start until I was 63.
You know what? God bless you. There's nothing, you know what? I'm sorry. I'll tell you what the problem we have in this country. We are age discriminate. We discriminate against age. Talent, this is just me personally, does not have an expiration date.
Thank you.
It does not. And you know what? If you can't change with the times, then you got a problem. You have to move with the times. Now, what I'm finding, a lot of the young people are starting to go back and realize what we did back in the day and bringing that stuff to their vision. That's a no-brainer. That's easy. I'm 67 years old. I could do that with a frontal lobotomy. You can just, well, you can see the pacing. You can see the rhetoric, the pacing, the cutting, and stuff like that. That's easy to do. That's all it is. And I think, this is my personal opinion, I think we're going to get tired after a while of CGI movies. I hope so. Well, you know, if you don't have a story, then what are we watching? Effects? You need a story. I'll tell you, when I was, I don't know, 23 or 24 years old, my business manager, my brothers and I worked a lot more than most people know. We never stopped. If it wasn't television, it was touring, it was recording, we never stopped. My business manager called me once and he goes, you gotta buy some. And I said, I just bought some groceries. You know, what do you mean? He goes, no, you gotta buy something like big. I said, like more groceries? I was like, what are you talking about? He goes, no, like a house. So I went, oh, okay. So I bought this house in Brentwood Park from a gentleman named Alvin Sargent, who is a 2 or 3 time Academy Award winning writer. He wrote Julia, he wrote Bobby Deerfield, he wrote Paper Moon, he wrote one of the Spider-Men. He's phenomenal. I was 24. I was doing comedy, sketch comedy on television, writing and directing that stuff. And I said to him, I said, Alvin, I said, look, I write now comedies, sketches, but one day I'd like to write screenplays. Can you give me any advice? And he goes, yeah, don't fall in love with your words. I went, what? I didn't know I was like, okay. And I remember in my car going, what the hell does that mean? And now cut to a year and a half later, I had the opportunity to have lunch with Julie Andrews and her husband, Blake Edwards, who directed, you know, Pink
Danny
Panther.
Motor?
No, Blake Edwards.
Blake, okay.
The director. This was like in '78. He directed, like, you know, all the Pink Panthers with Peter Sellers and you know, just tons of movies. And I loved his movies. And I was sitting next to him at this lunch, and I said, this is, you got to remember, I'm a young guy, and I will be honest with you. Sometimes you say things and it just, because you can't, I was too young to grasp what everybody was saying to me. And I said, Mr. Edwards, I said, you know, I direct like comedy, sketch comedy now and stuff like that. I said, but one day I would like to direct movies. Is there, can you give me any pointers? He goes, yeah, don't fall in love with your pictures. I thought, what the hell is going on? What does that mean? Don't fall in love with your words. Don't fall in love with your pictures. I had no idea. Now I totally understand what they meant. I really do. The movie
what did they mean?
Well, okay, I'll give you an example. The movie that I'm going to direct as soon as this stuff is over. It's a paranormal thriller. Okay.
Wow.
I wrote a scene in this movie that, this is my personal opinion, and only my personal opinion, because nobody has ever seen that scene except me and my wife. It's the best scene I've ever written in my life. Wow. I mean, seriously, it has everything that you pray for when you're doing a scene of conflict. Okay. When it's in the script, it's like 4.5 pages. It doesn't do anything at all. It doesn't move the story forward. It doesn't move the characters forward. It's just a wonderful scene. It was horrible. I fought myself. I'm cutting it out. I would go, you know, go to delete it and I couldn't delete it. So I saved it because I'm going to write a movie around this one scene. I didn't fall in love with my words.
Wow.
That's what that meant, because I love those words. I love that scene. And it's a great scene. If in the story, this woman's husband and daughter are brutally and ruthlessly and out of nowhere murdered. But you don't really see it. I shoot it so it's indicated, because I don't think we've seen enough of that stuff. And what happens is, as she goes through this journey, she meets this gentleman who is married, who loves his wife, and they're divorcing. And they connect because they're both at loss. It's not romantic, it's not sexual. There's none of that. It's just they both are at loss, and that's their connection. The scene is brilliant. It doesn't do anything. It just kind of, you read it and you go, oh God, that's really great. Okay, if you lift those 4.5 pages out, you can go to the next page, does the same thing. That's what I mean. I didn't fall in love with my words, and I pat myself in the back because I cut it out.
That's huge. That's a good lesson. It stuck with you. You heard it long ago and it stuck with you.
Oh, I heard it long. I was 24. I heard it long ago, and this stuck with me. And it's the same thing, my brother Mark, God bless him. I'll give him this. Guy had some balls. He would keep trying the same joke, and it never worked, ever. And Bill and I would laugh at him because we knew that he was going to go for it. And I sometimes whisper to him on stage. I go, "Don't do it, don't do it, don't do it." And he would do it anyway, and he bombed. It became a joke for us in the band that he would try it and bomb, and it bombed every time. Never once did it succeed.
Do you remember the joke?
Oh God. Oh man.
All of us comics have one joke that never works that we refuse to throw away.
Yeah, that's my in a nutshell. He goes, woman was knocking at my door. I can't remember. I let her in, and we made love the whole night, and it was unbelievable. It was the best 3 minutes of my life. It's my brother Mark's joke. It was my life. And afterwards, she said, how about some money? And I said, oh, hell no, just give me a box of chocolates. It never worked. A mumble laugh, but the big laugh was me and Bill and the band, because we knew he was going to die. And that was part of the thing that was one of the things I think my brothers and I learned is when we die, how Johnny Carson sometimes would die, and that was his joke?
Yes.
My brothers and I, sometimes there was a section in our show, we knew we were going to die, but the audience laughed at us dying. My brother Mark, every night. Sometimes, when you play Vegas, you get the same people come to see you like every night, right? So sometimes Mark would set up, hey, Bill, I got something to say. And Bill would say, okay, here it comes. And the audience would laugh, knowing that my brother was going to try to get a laugh from this joke. Him trying to get a laugh became the joke.
Yes.
That's smart. I mean, my brother,
it is.
I hate to say we were smart, but that was a smart thing to do. And
it is.
Well, when you're, repetitive, I hated playing nightclubs.
What?
I hated playing nightclubs.
Really?
I hated it. Oh my God. Yeah. There was nothing worse for me than playing nightclubs. Not Vegas. I mean, Vegas was okay. I was never I don't like the sound of casinos, the constant dinging and binging and stuff like that. But I'm talking about back in the old days when we used to play. We lived in Canada in Vancouver, BC for about 1.5 years and played all the nightclubs there, Sneaky Pete's and the Cave and blah, 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 all those places. I hated it then, but when I look back on it, you're playing 5-6 hours a night, 6 nights a week, man, that makes your routine, even your music, that makes you tight. That's like, that makes you good. It's the same thing, the problem I feel for a lot of young comedians today is there's really no place for them to perform anymore. Back in my day, it was everywhere. I mean, the Comedy Store and the Improv and stuff like that, those are mainstays, but I'm talking about There are places all over the country where you can go and perform. Those places aren't there anymore. That's sad. Because if you don't know, if you can't go work your, work your craft, what's the old line? God, Rodney used to say it all the time. Oh, you got to take them on the road. He used to say it all the time. You got to take them on the road. I love that. I love that guy. One of my favorite comedians as well. He was just a good, but he's right. You got to take them on the road. You got to see what works and what doesn't work.
Yes.
And I don't think young comedians have that opportunity as much as they did back in the day. It's a great. It is great though. There's nothing like making people laugh. I hate to say it. It's just
nothing like it.
No, it's
so great that I got a chance to get to know you and interview you. And
I apologize, by the way, for last time, but that was just got all screwed up. And thank you for this. I had a great time.
Well, the thing is that I had no idea the depth of your love for comedy. No idea. I didn't know you knew Harry Basil. I did not know that you had written it. I went looking for everything, Mark, Bill, Brett, the Hudson brothers, and never saw anything about your comedy. Never.
It's my favorite thing in the world. I hate to say it. And
I'm so lucky to interview you.
Thank you for having me. I really did enjoy it. And thank you very much. And
anytime you want to come on and announce anything about a film, a movie you're coming out with, would you please come back and make announcements and update us?
Absolutely, I will. Absolutely. Thank you.
God bless you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Brett Hudson, everybody.
Okay.
Thank you. Stay safe. Bye.
Bye-bye.